Well, good morning. I'm Craig with 435 Locals, and I'm here with my buddy Mark Fulcher with Real Estate Essentials, and he's got a unique program to actually help you sell your home or actually utilize your home to produce income in a down market. So
Yes.
why don't you tell me a little bit more
that's
about
perfect. Thank you. So that's perfect, Craig, because the plan that we do is we sell houses and homes for people on it as an income producing property. Okay, and how that works, it's very simple. What we do is we do it on a contract for deed. All right, and so how that works is, as for an example, you're the seller, I'm the buyer. Let's put this as an example. You're the seller wanting to sell your home, and you got, like, say, a less than 4% interest rate. So your payment on your house, you get a $350,000 loan, $700,000 purchase price you're wanting to sell it for, right?
Okay.
It's in a down market or it's in a slow market, and we got a creative way of doing this as an income producing property. And how that works is this. So we, as a company, offer it as an owner finance kind of thing on contract for deed sale.
Okay.
Now, $700,000 purchase, $350,000 loan that you have. Your payment with tax and insurance is, say, maybe $2,400. Okay, so what we do is we find a buyer, and we find a buyer that's going to put 15% down on your $700 purchase. Okay, so what that means is about $100,000, a little over $100,000. So in other words, that buyer has enough skin in the game that they may not walk away from this deal, right?
Okay.
For example, then we amortize a new loan for that buyer over 30 years at a little bit higher interest rate than what you're paying. Okay, so let's say 5 3/4.
Okay.
Less than what the market is. So it's 5 3/4. Maybe another payment is about $3,800. Okay, so what's important about that? We've produced the buyer, we've produced the seller because you're wanting to sell it. Now, a lot of people, what they say is, okay, what's going on with this? So how that works is the buyer puts the money down. We do an amortized loan of 30 years, call it due 3 to 5 years, because we have a professional people involved. So in other words, what are the reasons why you may not be able to buy in this traditional market?
Maybe there's issues with my credit.
Maybe there's issues with your credit. You might have went from a W-2 employee to now your own business.
Yep, sure.
Could be whatever reasons, right? So, and you have money you want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we have a lender in the beginning that vets you on the reasons why you may not be able to get a traditional loan.
So you're still getting qualified to buy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So this person makes sure that you can perform in that 2 to 5 years down the road when you refinance the property. Okay? But it creates an income, because the 5 3/4 interest rate is more than 3% interest rate. So the new payment's $3,800. So what we do is you make the payment to an escrow company, a third-party escrow company. That third-party escrow company actually makes the mortgage payment. The difference goes to the seller. Okay?
Gotcha.
So that's how the income producing property happens.
I see.
So what's the difference, Craig, between $2,400 and $3,800?
$1,400.
$1,400. Who? That's income, yes?
Yes.
And who's that go to?
It goes to the
Seller. Okay?
Gotcha.
That's how that works.
Okay.
So we have the lender involved to make sure that to mitigate the risk down the road, to make sure that you are doing what you do, or me as a buyer, or whoever, you're doing what you need to do to refinance that loan down the road.
To be able to qualify to buy.
Absolutely right.
Gotcha. Okay, so with everybody whose professional background is involved, it makes sure the whole thing is done legally. It protects everybody involved.
Yep.
Awesome.
So the third-party escrow, the lender, the title company, professional agents understands how to put this together.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact, the lender involved that vets the person in the beginning, the buyer, been in around almost 30 years. I've been in 31 years, title companies, 29 years, 20 of which they've been doing this type of transaction.
Okay. So a couple questions come to mind.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity. So what happens if the buyer defaults?
Great question. Well, in the beginning, you've put down how much?
15%.
Let's say the buyer, let's say you're the buyer now. 15% of 700, $100-something thousand.
Sure.
If you default, you're going to lose that money.
That's a lot of money.
Okay, that's a lot of money. So what we want to do is make sure that we mitigate that risk and minimize it, so you understand that that's a possibility down the road if you can't make your payment.
Right.
Right? So what happens if you do? Things happen in life, right? What happens if it happens? Then what happens is the seller, at the 31st day of the contract of being late in the contract for deed terms, it says, if you're 31 days late, I'm going to file as a seller a notice of notice of forfeiture.
Okay.
Because what's recorded, you have ownership interest in the property. The title never transfers to you as the buyer.
Right.
That's so important, okay? Because a lender might do an audit and they find out that title has changed. That's when they might call a loan due, possibly, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So we mitigate the risk by vetting you in the beginning. You don't make a payment. It can be renegotiated if we want to, but at the 31st day, a forfeiture notice that you're forfeiting the right to do what? Losing all that money.
Right.
And say you're 2 years in it, all of a sudden you've lost those 2 years.
Yep.
Me as a seller or the seller is maybe not happy, but because they don't have a buyer anymore, but they can sell the property again.
I see.
So we want to mitigate that risk, and we stay involved with you throughout that process. So either one can be renegotiated,
Okay.
or at the 60-day, you're out, man.
All right.
Meaning we hire an attorney to do an eviction notice.
Okay. So the other question, and this is really important, what happens if the loan does actually come due and you as the seller of the property now has to pay the entire balance of
You know what? That's a great question because hopefully it never happens, right? But I'm not going to let my loan go default.
Okay.
So I'm going to make that payment anyway. We don't want that. But how I mitigate my risk on that as a seller is that $110,000 that you gave down in the beginning, I'm going to set aside maybe $10,000 to $15,000
Okay.
for those purposes, right? But if it happens and I can't, then I can resell a property again too, if I want, on a traditional or this way again.
Okay.
So that's the bottom line. The bottom line is
guess
I don't want the loan to be called due
Right.
or late or whatever, right?
And I guess I kind of answered my own question because you originally said that the money that the buyer is paying is going into an escrow account.
Yes.
And so that mortgage payment is actually being made out of that
Yes.
escrow account, and then the difference is being sent to the seller. So the mortgage is being paid all along.
Absolutely.
So there really shouldn't be any reason for that house note to become called due.
Yeah. So and how long is it going to take for you to have notice of that as me as a seller? The minute you don't make that payment on the, like say April 1st, right? Or March 1st, payments due by the 5th. If the third party escrow company don't get it, who are they calling? They're letting me know
Gotcha.
as a seller.
Okay, cool. You have anything to add about that?
No. You got any questions?
I think you've answered my questions. It's a very unique opportunity. And if you're interested in learning more about that program, or you want to talk to Mark about potentially selling your house for an income producing property, just get a hold of Mark either through 435 Locals. I'm Craig with 435 Locals. And again, Mark Fulcher with Real Estate Essentials. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.